Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believing a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the City of Angels in Los Angeles, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at CaregiverDave.com, along usually with my lovely co-host, best-selling author and former mayor of Grover Beach in California, Debbie Peterson, but she's up in the northern land, Iceland and Norway, and I'm a little jealous, but she'll be back next week, I think. Also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio podcast networks, 30 global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, CastBox, Mixcloud, and way too many more to mention. In fact, we're proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of thousands, and #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM. We have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Best-selling author Jodi Velazquez has a daughter who is diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 19 months old. Wow. She was her primary caregiver for 16 years, performed over 30,000 glucose checks, 8,700 insulin shots before she was 10. And she will offer some caregiver tips she learned by not just caring for a child with diabetes, but also from how to avoid burnout from prolonged caregiving. But before we get started, I want to take this moment to thank my last week's guest, Odessa Lundy, Empowering Military Caregivers. Real talk, real tools, and real encouragement. And just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews, including this one, on our membership website, CaregiverDave.com, or any of our other 30 global audio and video networks I mentioned earlier. All right, enough of that. Jodi, so great to have you on the Caregiver Dave Show.
Thank you. I am honored to be on your show. I think that you're doing a great job and you're amazingly talented, and all of your effort is paying off.
Well, thank you for all those kind remarks. I'll pay you that $20 later. But the honor is ours to have you on the show because you do quite a bit as well.
Thank you.
I like to ask my guests just who is Jodi Velazquez and why was she placed on this earth?
Well, I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I've always liked to write. I've been writing since I was a little kid, started with some poetry and some different stories. And when I was a new mom and my child was only 19 months old and diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I had to just write it down. I did a lot of logging to learn how to take care of her. I had a notebook that I kept on my kitchen counter and kept track of the numbers and all of that. And, just kept some notes in it so it was easy for me. And, when you have a baby that has diabetes, they don't learn the beginning steps of how to take care of it and manage it. So I thought when she was older, she missed all of those steps, and I wanted to put them in a book so that she could read it someday. And that's what made me do it. And then as I was compiling it, I said, considering the obesity problem and the diabetes epidemics, it would be great for everybody. So I just turned it into a book that could help everybody.
Yeah. Are you normally this organized? That's an amazing thing to do.
You know what? I had so many rough drafts that I threw away and even forgot about them, actually, because by the time my daughter was 16, my mother actually was getting dementia. And, and I was helping with that. I was helping quite a bit. So the book went, on the back burner, and I was doing that. So I would come back to the book and I'd be like, where was I? What chapter was I on? Where is everything? I couldn't even find it a lot of times. So it took me 10 years to write it. So I'm not really that organized.
Well, you look great.
But it was
So,
great that it took that long because there really was a lot of progress and a lot of changes. So the whole book encompasses so much, it was a good thing.
and I learned a lot because for years I thought diabetes only happened to obese people, but I found
Mm.
out that's not true. A lot of time it's just heredity. Was your daughter on the heavy side?
No, no. It's more
So how
like
did she get this?
I don't, nobody knows. Nobody
No one
knows.
in the family, grandparents, anything?
No, just like older relatives maybe
How
that
weird.
had type 2. But yeah, it was very, very different.
And remind our listeners the difference between type 1 and type 2.
Type 1, I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but type 1 requires insulin, and type 2, I think you can get away with pills. So a lot of checks is you don't get a lot of breaks. So it was difficult, when she was very young.
Mm.
For a long time, very long time, you feel alone, but one thing I wanted to share with your audience is that we didn't have a lot of relatives that were ready to dive in and help, but I discovered that the local high school had a program. It was like a preschool program, and they had their high school kids there taking the class. It was like a preschool class, and the
Uh-huh.
high schoolers took care of the kids and ran the class. And I reached out to them and said, do you think any of those kids would like to help babysit, a child with
Mhm.
type 1? And she said, let me ask around. And there was a few of them, and I was quite surprised. So
How
if you
old
are
was your daughter at
stuck,
that time?
well, probably like around 8, 6,
Mm.
7, 8. And we had, the high school kids came over, and I taught them how to use the equipment, like the glucose monitor and
Wow.
tracker. And they did a great job. It was really unbelievable. And they would be out watching, at a movie or getting dinner, and they'd call and they'd tell me the number. And they were so brave, and they just,
Wow.
so if anybody needs help, that's one avenue that you can go to if your school does it or if there's a school near you.
Wow, that's amazing. So how old was your daughter before she really um, started? Because I mean, a small child who can't even speak, they just let you do whatever you want to do them. But as they
Basically.
get older, they start becoming a little rebellious. I don't want this. I don't want that. What are you doing? Right? How old did that happen at that point?
I think my daughter always had this maturity level that was
Really?
amazing. And she was very young, I think like maybe the first or second grade when I started making charts for her to take to school. And she was just a little trooper. She read the chart and made her decision about the insulin. And of course, she thought she was totally handling it, but the nurse was watching, and calling me and telling me what she did. And she was just making great
Mhm.
decisions. All she had to do was read the chart, and she knew what to do,
She
and
would
it worked out great.
she would prick her own finger and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. She was super independent from very young, but I had communication, and I was right there, but
Yeah.
she
Well,
definitely was good
she
at school.
rose to your expectations. That's You were a good caregiver.
Yeah, I
So,
guess. I
so
don't know. You have to ask her.
did you have any problem encouraging her to eat well at school, or to watch out to what she eats? When she's not at school or anything like that.
I think because I'll tell you what, I was at a naturopath store one time, and I was just looking for alternatives that might help my daughter. And this lady was listening to me tell her what was going on, and she said to me, if you don't slow down, you're going to burn out. And she just by listening to everything I was telling her I was doing and what was
Mhm.
going on. And she said, I don't mean to scare you, but you need to take care of yourself. And I was like, wow, no one had ever said that to me before, but she was very perceptive, and she just told me like it was. And I really started thinking, okay, she's right. I have to take small steps. And I started taking some supplements, and I started going to a gym, just making that one day a week, like trying to get to the gym just to get myself some relief. And the other thing was, which is what my book is about, is eating healthy. And, I wanted to start eating better to make sure that I was taking care of me because,
Mhm.
in the long run, I didn't want to leave my daughter or both of my daughters, and I wanted to stay healthy. So, and I think eating healthy also makes you happier, makes you feel better. So
Sure.
that was the way she was raised. I cook. A lot of people think my book is a cookbook because I have a YouTube channel where I promote healthy eating by cooking at home. So, but it's not a cookbook. It's a book about how to stay healthy by eating well.
Wow.
But anyway, I think when she just became used to eating well, and she didn't want to veer off too much. One bad thing was all the treats at school and then birthday parties and stuff like that. So, we would have some elevated numbers when those kind of things happen. But for the most part, she ate really well.
Lucky you. Um, um,
Well, if
did
it's
she,
not in the house, you can't eat it.
did she take an interest in cooking? Does she cook her own food?
She is an excellent cook. She's so
Mhm.
good at breakfast, making omelets and stuff like that. She's really, really good with that stuff. She cooks dinner too. Both of my daughters they've gotten really good in the kitchen, especially since my YouTube channel started with all the cooking parties that I have.
Yeah, well, I knew nothing about caregiving a diabetic until my aunt needed our care. She was had dementia as well, and so I would prick her finger with that machine and see what the number was. Her numbers were in the 350s. And I said, "Did you have
Oh,
dessert?" She says, "Well, I had a little cheesecake." I said, "You're not supposed to have any sugary things like that." And you can always tell. I mean, the lowest she's ever been is like 100, so she
wow.
wasn't doing great. But what what does your daughter like that makes her glucose levels go off the chart?
I think that, at least when I was in charge, she's 26 now and she handles it. So I don't really see, the glucose numbers anymore. But definitely the fast food was a culprit in
Uh,
raising the numbers that was. And another one is the coffees with the syrup in them,
mm.
the coffee shops.
Yeah, I have a coffee shop, so I know that. Yes,
Oh yeah, you have a coffee shop.
it was in the gas station, but I'm retired now for a year.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I can tell because of the smile on your face. You just look like I'm a retired person.
Yeah, well, that's we got the other house or the condo at the ocean and a sailboat. So yeah, I smile a lot. Of
Yeah, you
course,
smile
I
a
always
lot.
did. I've been sailing for 50 years, but
I,
never could do it enough. But now I can do it every day if I want.
yeah, that's
It
great.
hasn't gotten old yet.
Are you renting out that house?
Um, the one in the ocean? Or
Yes.
no, no. Well, we were renting it out for a year, and then my wife says, "Let's move in." So we did, and now we live in both of them, half and half.
Oh, wow. That's great.
But I wish the numbers would be like 75-25, but we're negotiating. So what are the four helpful key concepts to be aware of?
Okay, so how I help people is by what helped me. And when I was learning how to take care of the diabetes management, what I found was that what really helped was feeding my daughter and letting her have a lifestyle like I had in
Mm,
1970, 1980 when I was growing up, which was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, lots of activity outside, and not a lot of fast food or snacking or the coffees or the drinks that are 32 ounces. So I was kind of feeding her that way and just trying to make sure she had a lifestyle. My book has 45 non-technology activities for kids in the back of it because I was like, let's get outside, let's play. And if it was winter, we were doing things inside. But so that's pretty much been my concept, and that I call vintage nutrition, and I
yeah.
describe it by the ABCTs, which is avoid high sugar and high fat, be active, consistency. It's not great because people love all the different kinds of foods that are out there, and they always want to try something different. But if you're consistent and you kind of eat the same things every day, that's a little better. And the last one is T, which is timing. And timing is just breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have an issue currently that is just continuous eating, continuous snacking.
I thought it was healthy to have multiple tiny meals throughout the day instead of 3 meals.
Well, if it's celery and carrots and a couple crackers, yeah. But if it's like donuts from the donut shop and a large coffee with extra 4 pumps of syrup in it, no.
Uh,
Yes.
so roadblocks to the key concepts to be aware of?
Well, the roadblocks are going to be the convenience of it. You're driving and you're hungry and we used to, when in the 1970s, when we were outside playing, we didn't even care about that pain of hunger. You were outside for 4 or 5 hours
Yeah.
and you didn't care. Now people can't help it and they're tempted because they see that, fast food place there and they want to pull over and just get something quickly. That's going to be a roadblock. And another roadblock is all the generous people. People are so kind, really. They just constantly want to give you food and bring you food and bring in cookies and bring in a big box of donuts. And that can be a lot, because it adds up. It adds up and it's extra calories. So that's going to be a roadblock. Just all of the convenience of popping something in the microwave, those foods really aren't good for you. We have 10,000 food additives that are really not studied that much. So, those are some of the roadblocks. Just those are the big ones, just pulling over real quickly and getting something at the fast. I haven't been to a fast food place in, I bet, 2 years.
For you.
I was at McDonald's and a truck slipped out of gear and crashed into me while I was picking up my food at the window. And I said, that's a sign from God. I got to quit.
So you do nutritional and historical comparisons to gain perspective. What does that mean?
Well, I do it all through my book. I tell how it was back 50 years ago and compare it to how it is now. So it really kind of gives the reader an idea of what the difference is and how much our nutrition has changed sneakily, little by little, over a long period of time, which is really scary. That's a scary change when you don't notice it because it's a little bit, but it's a lot over a long period of time. So I compare like things like the size. There's a chart in the book that shows the size of like French fries back in the 70s and a muffin. Muffins and cupcakes are like little pies now. They're so much bigger than what they used to be, and the average plate size has grown. And I have a picture in the book of my parents used to have a lot of family parties. They used to host a lot of them. And there's my dad made a wooden little, looks like looks like a mail holder, but it was for paper plates and it had 3 holes for forks, knives, and spoons. And now you can't even fit a paper plate into the paper plate holder part because they're all too big.
My gosh. You should write a book on that. How many tips to play outside with non-technology things. That is so healthy, instead of being on your computer or your device inside. You go outside and play. In New York, we used to play stickball all the time. As soon as the school was out, till they were calling us in for dinner, and that's got to be so much more healthy. Just the fresh air, the exercise, the adrenaline, dealing with people, socializing yourself. Kids are really getting cheated out of things by not having that environment anymore, aren't they?
Right. And I actually have pictures to verify we did these activities in the last chapter of the book. But we were constantly doing something that didn't involve an electronic, so it was just to keep active. With diabetes, you really, I'm not talking about exercise. I'm just talking about movement. Movement helps drop the blood sugar. and any kind of movement. So anything that I could think of that we could do, we were doing. We were outside a lot, but like I said, if it was cold, we came up with obstacle courses inside and things to do
Yeah.
in the house. Yeah.
So, caregivers get burned out. What tips can you give them to avoid burnout, not get to the point where they are burned out, you know?
Right. I think, if you're looking for like a month off in Jamaica, it might not
That'll work.
happen. But I think, just trying to have fun daily can be even more helpful than a month off in Jamaica, because you have to have that peace of mind and you have to have that clarity. And, with what I was doing, I decided, okay, this is a learning experience, especially when I started learning a lot of this stuff. I'm like, if I know this stuff now and do this for myself, I could live longer, maybe. So I took it as an educational experience. But just daily, when my mom had dementia, when I went to see her at the care home, I always tried to get her outside so we could sit and
Yeah.
listen to the birds and see the butterflies. And she liked it, although it was work. You had to go down the elevator. She was in a wheelchair. But just to get that little bit of peace and
Yeah.
happiness and just rest for a minute, you have to do that. And if it is playing a game with whoever you're taking care of, even if it's tic-tac-toe or something, just to have some fun, but make sure you do it on a daily basis, just so you have that little bit
Yeah.
of good in your life daily.
So, we've actually run out of time. Is there something that we did not mention yet that you'd like to mention? And I'd like you to talk about your book, why you wrote it, and what you hope people will get out of it.
Here's
Great
a
anime.
here's a picture, or I mean, here's a visual of my book.
Great title.
So
Great
yeah,
cover.
know the enemy,
Oh, the
preventing
enemy.
weight gain.
So, what do you hope people will get out of this?
Well, you could, two of my preliminary editors lost 50 pounds reading my book.
Wow.
And so that really made me happy. And it was, that was so much motivation to make me finish it and keep writing. So there's practical tips in there. And Net Galley Review, which is a good review, they said that they don't normally like reading, the woman that said it, she doesn't normally like reading books about diabetes because they give her anxiety. This one does not. So it's more like light, fun, happy tips and ways to improve your nutrition,
Yeah.
easy ways to improve your nutrition. Yeah.
So, what were the tips actually that caused them to lose the weight?
I don't know that, but I know there's just little tips all throughout the book that you may not have thought of. For example, when you get a takeout from a restaurant and it comes in that big foot by foot box,
Yeah.
you know that your stomach is not going to be able to fit all that in. Just cut it in half right in the beginning. Eat half only and save the rest for lunch the next day.
That's great advice. Well, listeners, time flies when you're having fun. How can people get a hold of you if they want to find out more or buy your book?
Okay, so my website is jodivelazquez.com. It's JODIVELAZQUEZ. And if you didn't get to write that down, it's the same spelling as the painter Diego Velazquez. So there, and my book is on Amazon. I also have a YouTube channel where I have cooking parties. I teach my friends how to make some authentic dishes, and I have 25 people there. We're all rolling dough and stuffing manicotti, and it's a lot of fun. We're drinking wine and having a
And
good
where's
time.
that on your Facebook page?
That's my YouTube is Jodi
On YouTube.
Velazquez.
You have a
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. The honor was ours, and we appreciate everything that you've shared with our audience. And I just want to speak to my audience. Remember, all our live shows become recorded pod and videocasts on all your favorite platforms. My number one best-selling book, It's Your Life Too, How to Survive and Thrive as a Caregiver, is available wherever books are sold. Also, my free membership website, caregiverdave.com, where you can also schedule a free 30-minute initial coaching call, talk about whatever you're struggling with. You can also join my community of 34,000 caregivers on Facebook at Caregiver Dave. We have lots of tools, resources, videos, this radio show, and much, much more. And if you click the like or follow button, whatever platform you're on right now, it helps Google reach even more caregivers. So again, a big thank you to all my listeners out there all over the world for tuning in every Wednesday and making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel. May God richly bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. A great interview. I hope you had fun.
Yes, I definitely had fun. So tell me when it will air.
It's going to go on within 12 to 24 hours.
Oh, you're fast.
I am fast. And if I'm slow, it could take 48 hours. So
Okay.
just so you know.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was an honor, and I hope
you.
that maybe we'll meet again someday. I enjoyed our conversation the other day.
Well, if you go back to the National Publicity Summit, you'll probably meet me again.
Okay, cool.
Every time they do it. But thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it. And you'll be getting a video link and an audio link, and so you can share them on your social media.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Bye-bye. Dave Nasani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.